Jamie Weir joined us from Wentworth. Jamie, we heard you about half an hour ago with Andrew Coltop making some guesses. He was almost right.
He was almost right, yeah. We were one off between us, myself and Andrew. Yeah, I think a lot of them are fairly obvious choices. Tony Finau, he's just recently come into some great form again. His long-awaited second win a couple of weeks ago at the Northern Trust, and he hits the ball a country mile as well, which will be really useful around a big course like Whistling Straits. He was very impressive on his debut Ryder Cup appearance 3 years ago in Paris as well. Jordan Spieth, he's the darling of American golf with the absence of Tiger Woods. Alongside Rory McIlroy, he's probably the biggest star in the game, hugely popular with the fans, hugely popular with his teammates as well. And what a last year he's had. Harris English, it's been a breakthrough season for him, as Steve Stricker was just saying. 3 wins, and he's been in sensational form of late as well. Xander Schauffele, he's the Olympic champion. He was so close to making the team automatically as well. And yes, he's a rookie by name, but he's a real gutsy little street fighter and a man who is, again, like Spieth, very popular, easy to pair. Daniel Berger, he was winner at Pebble Beach earlier this season. He's actually been in sensational form for about the last 16 months, really. And anybody who watched the President's Cup at Liberty National a few years ago will remember that Daniel Berger was the real sort of cheerleader of that team, was really sort of getting the crowds going, pumping the chest. He will get under the skin of the Europeans, and that is hugely important to have in a Ryder Cup side. And there was really just one question mark, and that's who the final spot would go to, and it's Scottie Scheffler. Again, he's a great course fit. He hits the ball an absolute country mile. Whistling Straits is going to be a big old course. It's going to be set up wide, and if you can hit the ball a long length, then you're going to be in good position in a lot of those holes. And he hasn't won yet in the PGA Tour, but he got to the final of the World Match Play where he was beaten by Billy Horschel. But along the way, he beat behemoths of the game like Ian Poulter, Jason Day, and world number 1 John Ram. So he's certainly a man that again will be a rookie, but will perhaps be a great asset for Captain Stricker to have.
You mentioned West Ham fan Billy Horschel, who is just one of the names who would have been hoping for a pick today and didn't get one, but the man who'll get most of the headlines for not being in the team is Captain America Patrick Reed.
Yeah, I think he probably will get most of the headlines, Nick, for just missing out Patrick Reed. But if you look at it, well, he's recovering from double pneumonia. And if you read some of his quotes, he was almost on death's door. He was in a pretty bad way. So he's clearly not at his fittest. Are you going to get him to play 36 holes a day on a big old course like Whistling Straits in what could be very hot, humid conditions? I think that would be a struggle. He hasn't been in great form. It's been 3 months since his last top 10 finish. And yes, this Captain America sort of aura that he's created, well, back in 2014 when he was a rookie at Gleneagles, he was sensational. He was shushing the galleries in Scotland together with Jordan Spieth. They were unstoppable. 2 years later at Hazeltine, we all know what he was like there. That singles match against Rory McIlroy on the Sunday will go down in history as one of the great singles duels. Again, shushing the crowds, getting the crowds going, really getting under the skin of the Europeans. But since then, the crown has slipped a little bit. 3 years ago in Paris, he stank the joint out. He wasn't great at all, and he was paired with Tiger Woods and really let Tiger down in that regard. He won his singles match against Tyrrell Hatton on the Sunday, but the cup had been decided by then. And again, in the last President's Cup at Royal Melbourne, he was a bit of a liability for the Americans. So the crown has slipped from him in that regard. He's not in great form. And I think, Nick, the other part of it is he's a divisive character. He's difficult to pair. He's not hugely popular. And Steve Stricker already has a few divisive characters in that team. So does he really want to add another into the melting pot? I'm not sure he did.
Harris English in that news conference, which, by the way, you can carry on watching if you want to on Sky Sports Golf and Main Event. Harris English came out with the line, "I can play with anyone," which we're entitled to read as "I could play even with Bryson DeChambeau." Do you think Kevin Na would have come into consideration not only because he's in form and the world number 24, but because he does seem to get on a bit with Bryson?
Yeah, well, the Bryson DeChambeau conundrum is going to be a difficult one for Steve Stricker to work out. There's no doubt about that. Who do you pair him with? Can you play him in foursomes where, you need to be finding fairways and greens in foursomes? And Bryson, yeah, he hits the ball further than anybody, but he can be a bit erratic with it at times as well. And yeah, it does help if you get on with the guy that you're having to share a ball with in foursomes as well. And he's not hugely popular. We all know that. I think there would have been a temptation for Steve Stricker to have a sort of man in the team who could be the glue of the team, who could be a great man to have in the team room. And you're looking at the likes of Kevin Na or Kevin Kisner or Webb Simpson, who formed a great pairing with Tony Finau 3 years ago in Paris. Those would have been the three sort of guys that would have been great to have in that team room for morale, for sort of bringing people together. The thing all three of those guys have is they're not particularly long, and we know that Whistling Straits is going to be set up as an absolute monster in a couple of weeks' time as well. So that's probably what counted against them. Yes, you've still got people in that team room like Tony Finau, like Colin Morikawa, like Jordan Spieth, who can still be the person that gets those players together and sort of unites people. Who to pair Bryson DeChambeau with, that is a headache for Steve Stricker, there's no doubt about it. I don't think it's going to be Brooks Koepka, though.
I can guarantee you it's not going to be Brooks Koepka. Let's just keep that on the screen there, the pictures of the 12, and just ask you where Padraig Harrington might think the real strong points would be, and where he might think there are the weaknesses that he might try and exploit, because that's the way he's going to be thinking.
Yeah, well, I think from Padraig's point of view, in all honesty, Nick, he just needs to worry about his 12. He can't be too focused on the American 12 and trying to second-guess Steve Stricker. On paper, that is an incredibly strong US side. Make no qualms about it at all. And Steve Stricker he could have named a second 12 as well, which would have been incredibly strong. But those are his 12. He's got rookies in there who will be enthusiastic, bouncing off the walls of the team room and bringing real energy to the team. He's got big hitters in there who will be great course fits for Whistling Straits. He's got some experience in there as well. Not as much experience as in Ryder Cups gone by, because there's no Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, those sort of real veterans of Ryder Cups in there. So by comparison, it is a fairly fresh looking team. But look, that is a strong side. Padraig Harrington doesn't need to really concern himself too much about that. What historically has been the problem for American teams and for American captains is team spirit. There are a lot of individuals in that team. How do you get them all together? Who do you pair with whom when you've got sort of lone wolves and divisive characters like Bryson DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka, even Dustin Johnson, Patrick Cantlay? They're very much their own men. Who do you pair them with? And that is the advantage that historically Europe has always had over the United States, is that those 12 guys, they're a band of brothers for that week. And yes, they're going to US soil. Yes, this time around it's going to be like 99% home fans jeering them, and you'll get polite applause when you hold a birdie putt, or perhaps a cheer when your ball ends up in the water or in the bunker. That's going to be difficult for the European team to deal with. But that could also be a uniting factor for them, and I'm sure that's the message that Padraig Harrington will be passing on to his team.